Hello, friends. I hope everyone's doing well. It's Nancy again with Astrology and Angel Mediums, and again, I'm trying to challenge myself to try to do some sort of recording and upload to YouTube. And today, what I wanted to talk about instead of doing a reading was a few decks that I'm not too familiar with that I'm going to try to challenge myself to using a little bit more this month. So I'm just going to kind of like talk about why I haven't used them or what it is about them that maybe is a little bit challenging for me to want to use them. All right, so I have a couple oracle decks. We're going to put them off to the side. But I'm going to start with this little guy here. So this is the Hermetic Tarot. And the biggest thing with this deck is that I think because I learned how to read tarot on a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is the more traditional kind of tarot, the more commonly seen tarot, I'm more familiar with it. And so it's like that's what I'm used to and that's what I'm comfortable with. So that's what I tend to kind of lean into. But I have really, as I was like trying to learn more about how to, the different types of systems out there, what's popular, things like that, I decided to get myself this Hermetic Tarot deck, which is black and white, which is gorgeous to me. Very simple art in the sense of there's not a lot of color on this one because it's just black and white, but it does have a lot of symbolism. Some of the cards have, all of the cards have these other like names like kind of tied into them. I should probably make sure that there's like nothing bad, sorry. And there's a little bit more nudity on this deck. So that's another reason why I don't really use it with like clients and things like that. I tend to not say I'm like hanging out and just using more fluffy decks. One of my favorite decks to read with is the Spacious Tarot, which doesn't have any people in it. It's just one of my favorites to read for clients. And also I've been loving the Rosebud Tarot. But again, those are both Rider-Waite-Smith styles. So the Hermetic Tarot is actually based off of the esoteric workings of the Secret Order of the Golden Dawn. And there's just a lot of stuff that's just kind of associated with that. Kind of not always the most positive. I think that there's a lot of misunderstandings just because of Aleister Crowley's work with these things. And so the Hermetic Tarot, the Thoth Tarot, both of those have kind of like these interesting associations that maybe make some people a little bit more uncomfortable because like they can talk more about like demons and things like that or whatever. What I do like about this is because of the Golden Dawn traditions, each of the cards has astrological components associated with the cards. And so you'll see the symbolism throughout. So here we have Cancer, and we also have, I can't even tell what that is. Sometimes the symbols are kind of overlapping one another. So it kind of looks like Pluto, but then it also looks like something else. So I'm not entirely sure if this was meant to be. So here we have the North Node in Cancer because we have the North Node symbol. I don't know if this is supposed to be a symbol too. But some of these have more direct kind of symbols here. So here we have Aries and we have Venus. So Venus and Aries would be associated with the Four of Wands. I hope that kind of makes sense. So it really does kind of cover more of that energy. And here we have Jupiter in Capricorn. So we have that symbolism there for the Two of Pentacles. Here we have Venus in Virgo. So that's the Nine of Pentacles. So see what I mean? It can kind of give a little bit more depth if you're someone that utilizes astrology and has a good understanding of each of the planetary influences and how that kind of comes together. So I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I'm going to challenge myself to kind of utilize it a little bit more for my personal kind of like spreads and readings, which I really don't do too often, but I'm trying to get into it a little bit more. As far as like maybe just for like practice and study and my own kind of personal growth, I think it's always beneficial. Now, the second deck I want to talk about is the Oracle of the Witch. So this is a really beautiful deck in the sense of I love the coloring. It goes very well with the Hermetic Tarot because it's like black and white and red. But here, I'll show you. Isn't that pretty? That red flash, very Valentine's-y kind of vibe. So I received this and I just haven't really reached for it. And I don't know if it's just because I have so much other stuff that I have, like, that I'm trying to work with and utilize, but I think that this will be a good kind of supplement because I feel like it has kind of more intricate undertones to it, like the Hermetic Tarot does. So there's, you know, things like this where I think it'll be nice to kind of utilize this for my own kind of personal development journey, and to kind of dive in a little bit more onto the witchier aspects of myself, and kind of understanding that energy within myself, and kind of familiarizing myself a little bit more with some of this like witchy kind of stuff. So that's another deck that I would like to connect to a little bit more this month. And because I have like, I think currently my collection of decks, I have about maybe close to 160, maybe 200 decks. I'd have to really like recount because I've been kind of destashing and kind of going through my collection and kind of passing on the things that like no longer need to be just like sitting on my shelf because I just haven't used them. And then that's where I was like, you know what, I was like, I should kind of challenge myself to kind of utilize some decks a couple times, you know, in a month, or to kind of familiarize myself with them a little bit more. So the next one is this one that I just recently purchased, which was the Tree Keepers Oracle. I just thought the artwork was stunning. This is a very beautiful box as well. A lot of beautiful things in it. And again, it's like I tend to, it has this beautiful kind of subtle gold flash on the edges, beautiful artwork as well. And I think the reason why I haven't really reached for this since I've gotten it is because as much as these cards may be an oracle, some of these are a little bit harder for me to kind of connect to the messages. And I feel like if I have to rely on the book or lean too much into a book, I typically won't use a deck. And I don't know if anybody else is like that. I don't mind getting to know a deck, but I feel like if I have to use it for every single time I'm trying to utilize a deck, I feel like that becomes a little bit of a hindrance, and it feels challenging for me to want to reach for it quite often. Now, some of these are pretty general, like, okay, Keeper of Beginnings. Obviously, that would be something that to me would kind of resonate with the energy of like the Fool, so to speak, if we're kind of looking at the lessons from tarot. The Keeper of Truth, you know, Keeper of Boundaries. Those things kind of make sense, but there's some of these that I'm like, what does that mean? Keeper of Shift, that's fine. Keeper of the Game, like, what does that mean? Is that like a playful thing? So I think I'm going to try to connect to it a little bit more this month and try to, you know, just help me feel more confident in wanting to pull this out, because it is a gorgeous deck. I love the artwork. It's stunning. It shuffles really well. It feels good in the hand, as you can tell. Like, I mean, we probably can't tell in these videos, but I don't have very large hands. So I do tend to struggle with decks that are very big. And this is a great size, and I do want to be able to utilize it more, because again, I don't just buy decks just to collect them. I buy them because I'm like, I have all the intentions in the world to utilize the decks and to become familiar with them. All right. And finally, the Beloved Dead. Now, the Beloved Dead is, to me, a companion that goes perfect with the Relative Tarot, which this deck, chef's kiss, love it. This is actually what I use for my own personal readings. I use it for ancestral tarot working, for my ancestral grimoire. I used it for my shadow work challenge that I did previously. So I love this deck. It is gorgeous. It like connects so easily for me. It's divine. And I love the artwork. I didn't think I was a fan of like collage art style stuff, but I am. So this is kind of the companion oracle, I think, in some ways. But, and again, it has that nice kind of gold edging. All of these have beautiful edges. But as you can tell, there's so many cards, right? And that's great. That's fantastic. But as you can see, I'm struggling because it's going to be a little big. It's a little hard. The cards are a little bit slippy. And again, this is very similar to the Tree Keeper's Oracle, where I have to rely very heavily on the book to kind of see what this means. And then sometimes I'll think a card is like one thing and then I look at the book and I'm like, I don't know what that means. So like a card like this, Wise Guy, do we just do like word association as far as like what that means for me? And again, it's like if I feel like I have to rely on a book or always have to check in with the book, it makes it a little bit challenging for me to want to pick it up, to keep trying to use it, because then I just feel like it throws me out of my intuition in some ways. And so this is like talking about like a wise guy. Wisecracking, comic, hilarious, razor sharp wit, wisecracking, kind of know it all. But like, what would that mean? It's saying to protect yourself physically, economically, or spiritually. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I wouldn't divine that meaning from the word wise guy. So I think that's another reason why I've kind of struggled to connect with the energy of this card. Now, some of them make sense. Visitation, witch, perfection. But then there's also these act of love cards that, you know, say do nothing. These are ones that make sense, but I think I had one that was like objectivity, and I was like, oh, that must mean this. And then I look in the book and I'm like, actually, no, that's not what that means. Or things like this, like chicken. What does that mean? Am I being a chicken? Do I need to be more brave? Am I being goofy? So that's where I maybe haven't really reached for this as much as I would have liked. Because again, I love the Relative Tarot. It works so well for me. But again, I think it's more of that. And I'm a Taurus. I am all about what's comfortable and what I'm going to use. But I just wanted to see what you guys think. Are there decks that maybe you've gotten in the past that maybe you're like, I'm kind of struggling with this and feel kind of forced to use them? I used to be that way, and I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, you know, if something feels hard or forceful, I'm not going to force it. Like, if something just is like not for me at the time, and there's decks that I've gotten rid of prematurely now that I look back and I'm like, oh man, I really wish I still had that deck. It's okay. You know, to me, it's like I would much rather keep and use what I have and really love it and really have it almost like ripped to shreds because I use them so much. So I'm going to challenge myself this month to utilize these cards a little bit more and kind of connect more to these decks so that I can kind of overcome some of the limitations that I place on myself based off of like what I feel I'm able to accomplish and how I'm able to work with these decks. So I hope that makes sense. Have a good day. Take care. And my readings are always open. I haven't really been talking about that, but my website is www.astrologyandangelmediums.com. I have all kinds of information on my website, not just like readings and bookings and things like that, but you can find a lot of how-to DIY stuff on there. And I hope that this makes sense. I'm going to see how all of this kind of posting on YouTube goes. Have a good one. Take care. Take it easy. And as always, make good choices.